Take this. The bucket hits the deck with a hollow thud. A young black girl freezes mid-step, her braids catching the afternoon sun, her eyes wide with confusion. Around her, passengers in crisp resort wear sip cocktails and scroll through their phones, the Caribbean stretching endlessly blue behind them. No one moves. The cleaning woman stands over her, arms crossed, mouth twisted into something between a smirk and a sneer. "Well, you came here to work, didn't you?" And just like that, paradise becomes a stage for cruelty. Amara Collins had been dreaming of this moment for months. The Sea of Roses luxury cruise liner towered above the Miami port like a floating palace. 13 decks of polished wood and gleaming glass that promised a week of escape from the ordinary. She stood at the boarding ramp with her mother, Serena, clutching her phone, trying to capture the enormity of it all. Her mother laughed softly beside her, adjusting the strap of her sun hat, her voice warm with excitement. "Can you believe this, baby? A whole week. Just us." Amara grinned, her heart hammering in her chest. She was 13, too old to jump up and down like a little kid. But inside she felt like she might burst. This cruise was a gift, a celebration of her mother's promotion after years of working double shifts at the hospital. Serena had scrimped and saved, planned every detail, booked the best cabin she could afford. And now here they were, about to step into a world they'd only seen in glossy brochures and travel blogs. They climbed the ramp together, greeted by uniformed crew members who smiled and handed them champagne flutes, sparkling water for Amara. The lobby was breathtaking. All marble floors and crystal chandeliers, soft piano music drifting from somewhere unseen. Passengers milled about, their laughter echoing off the high ceilings. Amara felt a flutter of nerves. She was used to being one of the few black faces in most spaces, but here, surrounded by so much wealth and whiteness, she felt especially visible. "Come on, let's find our cabin," Serena said, squeezing her daughter's hand. Their room was on deck 7, smaller than the suites, but cozy and bright, with a balcony overlooking the ocean. Amara immediately claimed the bed by the window, tossing her backpack onto the crisp white duvet. Her mother unpacked with the efficiency of someone who'd spent years organizing hospital supplies, hanging dresses in the narrow closet, lining up toiletries on the bathroom counter. Within an hour, they were changed into sundresses and sandals, ready to explore. The ship was a maze of staircases and corridors, each level offering something new. There was a theater, a casino, a spa with floor-to-ceiling windows, a library filled with leather armchairs. On deck 10, they found the pool area, an expansive deck dotted with lounge chairs, cabanas, and 2 shimmering pools that reflected the sky. Waiters in crisp white shirts moved between the chairs, balancing trays of tropical drinks. A DJ played soft reggae from a booth near the bar. It was perfect. Amara spotted an empty chair near the edge of the pool, a prime spot with a view of the ocean. She started toward it, her mother trailing behind, when a voice cut through the music. "Excuse me?" Amara stopped. A woman in a gray cleaning uniform stood a few feet away, her arms full of folded towels. She was somewhere in her 30s, pale skin flushed from the heat, dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her name tag read, Diane. She didn't smile. "That area is reserved," Diane said, her tone clipped. Amara blinked. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see a sign." Diane's eyes flicked over her, a quick, dismissive scan. "It's for premium guests." Serena stepped forward, her voice polite but firm. "We're passengers. We boarded this morning." Diane's expression didn't change. She set the towels down on a nearby table and crossed her arms. "Premium cabins only, that's the policy." Serena pulled out her phone, navigating to the cruise app. "I don't see anything about reserved seating in the pool area. It says all guests have access." Diane shrugged, her mouth tightening. "Well, maybe you missed it. There are other chairs." The dismissal was clear. Amara felt heat rise in her cheeks, not from the sun, but from something deeper, sharper. She glanced at the chairs around them. Most were occupied by white families, couples, groups of friends laughing and drinking. No one else had been questioned. No one else had been turned away. Serena's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice steady. "We'll find another spot. Come on, Amara." They moved to the opposite side of the deck, finding 2 chairs near the bar. Amara sat down slowly, her stomach churning. She tried to focus on the ocean, the way the sunlight danced on the water, but all she could think about was the way Diane had looked at her, like she didn't belong, like she was a problem to be solved. Her mother reached over and squeezed her hand. "Don't let her ruin this, baby. She's just one ignorant person." Amara nodded, but the knot in her chest didn't loosen. She pulled out her book, a mystery novel she'd been saving for the trip, and tried to lose herself in the pages. Around her, the pool area buzzed with life. Children splashed in the shallow end, their laughter high and carefree. A group of teenagers played volleyball in the pool, their shouts echoing across the deck. Waiters brought drinks, workers cleaned tables. The DJ switched to a salsa beat. An hour passed. Amara was halfway through a chapter when she noticed Diane again. The woman was moving through the deck with a cart, collecting empty glasses and discarded towels. She worked efficiently, her movements brisk and mechanical. But when she reached Amara's area, she paused. Her eyes landed on Amara, and for a moment something unreadable flickered across her face. Then Diane turned and walked directly toward her. Amara's breath caught. She glanced at her mother, who was dozing lightly in the chair beside her, a magazine open on her lap. Diane stopped in front of Amara, her shadow falling over the book. She didn't say anything at first, just stared down at the girl with an expression that was hard to read. Finally, she spoke, her voice low enough that only Amara could hear. "You dropped something." Amara frowned. "What?" Diane reached into her cart and pulled out a red plastic bucket, a scrub brush, and a yellow cleaning rag. She set them on the ground beside Amara's chair with a soft thud. "These," Diane said, her tone flat. "You'll need them." Amara stared at the items, confusion washing over her. "What are you talking about?" Diane's mouth curved into a thin, mirthless smile. "You're here to work, aren't you? So get to it. The deck needs scrubbing." The words landed like a slap. Amara's eyes widened, her pulse spiking. She looked around, hoping someone, anyone, had heard. But the music was loud, the conversations louder, and no one was paying attention. Her mother was still asleep, her chest rising and falling in slow, peaceful breaths. "I'm not," Amara's voice cracked. "I'm not a worker, I'm a passenger." Diane tilted her head, her smile widening just slightly. "Sure you are. That's why you're sitting here pretending you belong." Amara felt something break inside her, a dam she'd been holding back since they boarded. Tears stung her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She stood abruptly, the book tumbling from her lap. "I'm a passenger," she repeated, her voice shaking. "I have a cabin. I have a ticket." Diane leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Then why don't you go back to wherever you came from? This area isn't for people like you." The deck seemed to tilt. Amara's hands trembled. She wanted to scream, to shove the bucket into Diane's chest, to wake her mother and demand justice. But fear and shame locked her in place. She stood there, frozen, staring at the cleaning supplies at her feet, feeling the weight of every eye that wasn't looking her way. Diane straightened, satisfied. She turned and pushed her cart toward the next section of the deck, leaving Amara standing alone, her chest heaving, her world tilting on its axis. Nearby, a man in a linen shirt lowered his sunglasses. He had been watching. His name was Marcus Hale, head of guest relations for the Sea of Roses, and he had just witnessed something that would change everything. Marcus Hale had worked in hospitality for 17 years, long enough to recognize trouble before it fully bloomed. He'd been walking past the pool deck when he noticed the interaction. A cleaning staff member standing over a young girl, something tense in the body language. He'd slowed his pace, positioning himself near a column where he could observe without being obvious. What he saw made his blood run cold. The bucket, the brush, the rag, and the girl's face, crumpling under the weight of words he couldn't hear but could easily imagine. Marcus didn't hesitate. He moved swiftly across the deck, his polished shoes clicking against the wet tiles. Diane was already halfway to the bar area when he intercepted her, stepping directly into her path. His voice was calm, professional, but underneath it ran a current of steel. "Diane, a word, please." Diane stopped, her cart rattling slightly. She looked up at him, and for a brief moment something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, maybe, or fear. but it vanished quickly, replaced by a mask of neutral professionalism. "Yes, Mr. Hale?" Marcus gestured toward a quieter corner of the deck, away from the clusters of sunbathing passengers. Diane followed reluctantly, her jaw tightening with each step. When they were out of earshot, Marcus turned to face her, his arms crossed. "What just happened with that young girl?" Diane's expression remained blank. "I don't know what you mean." Marcus's eyes hardened. "The girl near the lounge chairs. You gave her cleaning supplies. I saw it." Diane shrugged, adjusting the towels on her cart. "I was just doing my job. Sometimes passengers make messes and I thought—" "You thought what?" Marcus interrupted, his voice dropping lower. "That a 13-year-old paying passenger needed to scrub the deck?" Diane's face flushed, but she held her ground. "I didn't know she was a passenger. She looked like— she wasn't wearing a wristband or—" "No one wears wristbands on this ship," Marcus said flatly. "And even if she were crew, you don't hand someone cleaning supplies as a joke. That's not how we operate." Diane's mouth opened, then closed. She looked away, her fingers drumming nervously on the edge of the cart. It was a misunderstanding, that's all. Marcus studied her for a long moment. He'd dealt with staff conflicts before, personality clashes, miscommunications, even theft. But this felt different. This felt intentional. He pulled out his phone and tapped the screen, pulling up the staff directory. "Diane Mercer," he read aloud. "You've been with Sea of Roses for 8 months. 3 complaints filed against you, 2 for rudeness to passengers, 1 for inappropriate comments to a coworker." He looked up. "And now this." Diane's face went pale. "Those complaints were unfair. People are too sensitive." "People are paying thousands of dollars to be here," Marcus cut in. "And you just humiliated a child in front of an entire deck. Do you understand the gravity of that?" Diane's hands clenched into fists. "She shouldn't have been sitting there." "That area is for premium. There is no reserved seating at the pools," Marcus said, his patience wearing thin. "You made that up." Diane's mouth snapped shut. She stared at him, her breathing shallow, her eyes darting between his face and the deck beyond. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Fine. I made a mistake. I'll apologize." Marcus shook his head. "You'll do more than that. You're suspended. Effective immediately. Return your ID badge and go to your quarters. HR will contact you within the hour." Diane's eyes widened. "You can't." "I just did," Marcus said. "Now go." For a moment, Diane looked like she might argue, might scream, might do something reckless. But then the fight drained out of her. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her ID badge, and slapped it into Marcus's hand. Without another word, she turned and walked away, her cart abandoned near the column. Marcus watched her go, his jaw tight. Then he turned back toward the pool area. The girl, Amara, was still standing by her chair, the cleaning supplies at her feet. Her mother had woken up and was now holding her daughter's shoulders, her face twisted with confusion and anger. Other passengers had started to notice, their conversations dying down, their eyes turning toward the scene. Marcus approached slowly, his hands visible, his expression gentle. When he reached them, he stopped a respectful distance away and spoke softly. "Excuse me, ma'am. My name is Marcus Hale. I'm the head of guest relations. I am so deeply sorry for what just happened." Serena looked at him, her eyes blazing. "Sorry? That woman just told my daughter to scrub the deck. She humiliated her in front of everyone." Marcus nodded, his face grave. "I know. I saw it. And I've just suspended her. She's being removed from duty immediately." Serena blinked, some of the fire dimming. "Suspended?" "Yes. And there will be a full investigation. What happened here is unacceptable, and it will not be tolerated." Marcus turned to Amara, who was still trembling, her eyes red and swollen. "Amara, I am so sorry. You didn't deserve that. No one does." Amara nodded, but she didn't speak. She couldn't. Her throat felt tight, her chest heavy with a confusion she couldn't name. Part of her wanted to scream, to demand answers, to ask why someone would hate her for no reason. But another part of her just wanted to disappear, to go back to her cabin and pretend none of this had happened. Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. He handed it to Serena. "This is my direct line. If you need anything at all, please call me. In the meantime, I'd like to offer you both a complimentary upgrade to a suite on Deck 12, full amenities, private balcony, and access to the VIP lounge. Serena stared at the card, then at Marcus. An upgrade isn't going to fix what just happened. I know, Marcus said quietly, but it's a start, and I promise you, this matter will be taken seriously. Serena looked down at her daughter, whose eyes were still fixed on the deck. She sighed, her anger giving way to exhaustion. Fine, we'll take the upgrade, but I want answers. I want to know why that woman thought it was okay to treat my daughter like that. You'll have them, Marcus said. I'll personally oversee the investigation. He gestured for a nearby crew member, a young man in a crisp white uniform, who jogged over immediately. Please escort Ms. Collins and her daughter to Suite 1207. Make sure they have everything they need. The young man nodded and smiled warmly at Amara. Right this way, miss. As they walked away, Serena's arm around her daughter's shoulders, Marcus stood alone on the deck. Around him, passengers had started to return to their conversations, their drinks, their vacation routines. But Marcus knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he'd hoped he wouldn't have to use on this voyage. It rang twice before a deep voice answered. Captain Reeves. Captain, it's Marcus. We have a situation. There was a pause, then a sigh. How bad? Marcus looked at the abandoned cleaning supplies, still sitting by the lounge chair. Bad enough? We need to talk. Now. Within 20 minutes, Marcus was standing in the captain's quarters, a spacious office lined with maps and nautical instruments. Captain Theodore Reeves sat behind a mahogany desk, his gray hair neatly combed, his uniform pressed and pristine. He listened in silence as Marcus recounted the incident, his expression darkening with each detail. When Marcus finished, the captain leaned back in his chair and rubbed his temples. Diane Mercer. I remember her file. 3 complaints in 8 months. Why wasn't she terminated? HR said there wasn't enough evidence, Marcus replied. The complaints were verbal. No witnesses, no video. And now? Now we have witnesses. Multiple passengers saw what happened, and I saw it myself. Captain Reeves nodded slowly. This is going to be a nightmare. Do you know who that girl is? Marcus frowned. Her name is Amara Collins. She's 13, traveling with her mother. The captain pulled up something on his computer, his eyes scanning the screen. Then he stopped, his face going pale. Her mother is Dr. Serena Collins. She's a cardiac surgeon in Miami, and she's connected. Very connected. Marcus felt his stomach drop. How connected? She sits on the board of 3 major hospitals and is a vocal advocate for racial justice. If this gets out, the captain trailed off, the implications hanging heavy in the air. Marcus swallowed hard. What do you want me to do? Captain Reeves stood, his jaw set. I want you to make this right. Upgrade them, comp their entire trip, and make sure they feel heard. And Marcus? Yes, sir? Find out everything about Diane Mercer. I want to know if this is an isolated incident or if we've been harboring a problem. Marcus nodded and left the office, his mind racing. As he walked back toward the main deck, he pulled out his phone and sent a message to the ship's security team. Pull all footage from the pool deck between 2 and 4 p.m. I need everything. By the time the sun began to set, casting the ocean in shades of gold and amber, the investigation was already in motion. And deep in her quarters on Deck 3, Diane Mercer sat on her narrow bunk, staring at the wall, wondering how everything had gone so wrong so fast. She didn't know yet that her life was about to change forever. The suite on Deck 12 was unlike anything Amara had ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows opened onto a private balcony that overlooked the endless Caribbean, the horizon painted in deep purples and oranges as the sun dipped lower. Inside, the room was 3 times the size of their original cabin, with a king-sized bed draped in Egyptian cotton, a sitting area with plush couches, and a marble bathroom with a rainfall shower and a soaking tub. But Amara barely noticed any of it. She sat on the edge of the bed, her hands folded in her lap, staring at nothing. Her mother moved around the room quietly, unpacking their belongings again, her movements slow and deliberate. Neither of them had spoken much since they'd arrived. The weight of what had happened still hung between them, heavy and unspoken. Finally, Serena sat down beside her daughter and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Amara leaned into her mother's warmth, her eyes closing as tears she'd been holding back finally spilled over. "Why did she do that, Mom?" Amara whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't do anything wrong." Serena's throat tightened. She pressed a kiss to her daughter's forehead, her own eyes burning. "Because some people carry hate in their hearts, baby, and they look for targets. It wasn't about you. It was about her. But it feels like it was about me," Amara said, her voice small. "It feels like I'm always the target." Serena pulled back, cupping her daughter's face in her hands. "Listen to me. You are brilliant, beautiful, and strong, and the color of your skin is not a weakness. It's power. Don't you ever let anyone make you feel less than." Amara nodded, but the ache in her chest remained. She wanted to believe her mother. She wanted to feel strong. But right now, she just felt tired. A knock on the door interrupted the moment. Serena stood, wiping her eyes quickly before crossing the room. She opened the door to find Marcus Hale standing in the hallway, his expression somber. "Ms. Collins, I'm sorry to disturb you. May I come in?" Serena hesitated, then stepped aside. Marcus entered, glancing briefly at Amara, who sat with her arms wrapped around herself. He held a tablet in his hands, and his posture was tense. "I wanted to update you on the investigation," Marcus began. "We've reviewed the security footage from the pool deck. It clearly shows the incident. Diane Mercer's actions were deliberate and discriminatory. There's no question about that." Serena crossed her arms. "And what happens now?" "She's been terminated," Marcus said. "Effective immediately. She'll be disembarked at our next port stop tomorrow morning. Additionally, we've contacted the authorities in Nassau. They'll be conducting their own investigation." Serena's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. "What about the other complaints? You said there were 3. Marcus nodded. "We're reviewing those as well. It appears that Diane had a pattern of behavior that was overlooked by her supervisors. That's unacceptable, and those supervisors will be held accountable." "Good," Serena said. "Because my daughter shouldn't have been the one to pay the price for your company's negligence." Marcus lowered his head. "You're absolutely right, and I can't undo what happened, but I can promise you that Sea of Roses will do better. We're implementing new training protocols, mandatory bias education for all staff, and a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination." Amara looked up, her eyes red but clear. "Will it actually change anything?" Marcus turned to her, his expression earnest. "I hope so, but change doesn't happen overnight. It takes commitment and accountability." He paused. "What happened to you was wrong, Amara, and I want you to know that your voice matters. You speaking up, your mother standing with you, that's what's driving this change." Amara nodded slowly. She wasn't sure she believed him yet, but something in his tone felt genuine. Marcus glanced at his tablet. "There's one more thing. Captain Reeves would like to meet with you both tomorrow morning. He wants to apologize personally and discuss what steps we're taking moving forward." Serena considered this, then nodded. "Fine, but I want everything documented. Everything." "Of course," Marcus said. "I'll send you a full report by email tonight." He left shortly after, and the suite fell quiet again. Serena ordered room service, something decadent to lift their spirits, but neither of them ate much. They sat on the balcony as the stars began to appear, the ocean stretching dark and endless below. "You know," Serena said softly, "when I was your age, something similar happened to me." Amara turned to her mother, surprised. "Really?" Serena nodded. "I was at a country club with my school, a scholarship program. One of the staff members assumed I was there to clean, told me the kitchen entrance was around back. What did you do?" "I froze," Serena admitted, "just like you did. I didn't know what to say. I was so ashamed even though I had nothing to be ashamed of." "Did anything happen to the person?" Serena shook her head. "No, I didn't tell anyone. I thought if I stayed quiet, it would go away, but it didn't. It stayed with me for years." She looked at her daughter. "That's why I'm so proud of you. You didn't stay quiet, and because of that, things are changing." Amara felt a warmth spread through her chest. Maybe her mother was right. Maybe speaking up did matter. The next morning, Amara and Serena met with Captain Reeves in his private office. The captain was an imposing figure, tall and broad-shouldered, with a neatly trimmed beard and piercing blue eyes. But when he spoke, his voice was gentle. "Ms. Collins, Amara, I want to begin by offering you both my deepest apologies. What happened on this ship was inexcusable, and while I can't change the past, I can commit to ensuring it never happens again. He slid a folder across the desk. This is a full report of our internal investigation, including Diane Mercer's employment history and the complaints filed against her. You'll see that we failed to act when we should have. That failure is on me. Serena opened the folder, scanning the documents. Her expression hardened as she read. 3 complaints in 8 months? Why wasn't she fired sooner? Because the system failed, Captain Reeves said bluntly. Her supervisors dismissed the complaints as misunderstandings. They didn't escalate them, and I didn't know until yesterday. That's not good enough, Serena said, her voice sharp. You're right, the captain agreed. It's not, which is why I'm implementing immediate changes. Every complaint will now be reviewed by an independent third party, and every staff member will undergo quarterly bias training. Amara, who had been silent until now, spoke up. What about the other people she hurt? Do they know? Captain Reeves looked at her, respect flickering in his eyes. We're reaching out to the passengers who filed complaints. They'll be offered compensation and a formal apology. Amara nodded, satisfied. Before they left, the captain stood and extended his hand. Thank you for giving us the chance to make this right. Serena shook his hand, then pulled Amara close. We're not doing this for you. We're doing it for every other child who shouldn't have to go through what my daughter did. As they walked back through the ship, passengers stopped them. Some offered words of support. Others shared their own stories of discrimination, of being overlooked, dismissed, targeted. Amara listened to each one, her heart heavy, but also strangely lighter. She wasn't alone. That evening, the ship held a special gathering in the main atrium. Captain Reeves addressed the passengers, acknowledging the incident and outlining the changes being made. When he finished, he invited Amara to the stage. She hesitated, but her mother's hand on her shoulder gave her courage. She climbed the steps, her legs shaking, and took the microphone. I didn't think anyone would care, she said, her voice trembling but clear. But you did. Thank you for seeing me, for standing with me. The room erupted in applause. And for the first time since stepping onto the Sea of Roses, Amara felt like she truly belonged. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel for more stories of justice and courage, and drop in the comments, what city are you watching from? Let's build a community that doesn't stay silent in the face of injustice.